welcome to We Have Spoken, the official podcast of Star Wars, a custom 112 Galaxy Facebook group, the largest 112 scale Star Wars customizing collective in the world. Are you interested in learning how to customize 6-inch Star Wars figures or build amazing dioramas for your shelf display? Of course you are! Visit 112galaxy.com. As always, my name is Corey Frya, and today I'm joined by a pair of group admins. First, coming to us live from Grogu's Zen Garden with chimes and fountain sound effects available on request, it's Matty D.
Morning, everyone. Happy to be here, and we're looking forward to today. Oh, hello there.
Also joining us, it's the only Marshal of the New Republic that I trust who wouldn't bust me for smoking spice. It's Ryan Crary.
Hello there.
Alrighty, guys. I'm not even going to talk. I'm really going to ask like the general question, what do you guys think? Because you know what? I know you loved it. I loved it. I want to start with the biggest thing of all, and it's Boba Fett is fucking back. Pardon my language, my French there, but as someone who fell in love with Star Wars at 8 years old, I have been drawn to Boba Fett for the past 26 years of my life. I'm 34 years old, and for the past 26 years, I've faced scrutiny for loving this character that people who only saw the movies, they said, this guy did nothing. He was useless. He went out like a chump in Return of the Jedi. And after 26 years of waiting, oh my God, was it finally worth it to be vindicated in my fandom for a character. He was everything that he was promised to be. He was the most lethal badass in all of Star Wars Galaxy. He put Mando to shame when he showed up with that gaffy stick and just beat the absolute shit out of those stormtroopers. I couldn't have been more happy with this return. Oh my God, guys. Your thoughts on Tamora Morrison returning as Boba Fett? Were you near as excited as I was? What were your thoughts? Just hit me with it all.
Okay, so I'll make it quick. You pretty much summed up my reaction watching him use the gaffy stick. I mean, he was just incredible. And as a guy who's not a major Boba Fett fanboy, boy, I have to tell you, I grew to appreciate the character so much more. And I actually feel really happy for people like you, Corey, and other big Boba fans, because at the end of the day, this is really vindication. I mean, like, he got clowned and they did him real dirty in the last of the original trilogy. So it was great to see him come back and just whoop some ass senseless. So I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. I mean, great fan service. Great to really see him come back around. I mean, finally get to see what those gaffy sticks are all about, and they're vicious, and I loved it. And what more can you say?
You know, my exact words when Boba Fett was fighting were, they finally redeemed live-action Boba Fett. They made him completely what he's supposed to be. There's just not enough praise you could give. They perfected Boba Fett finally.
Guys, I love the way he spoke. Like, to me, he was, he had that New Zealand accent going on there, but the way they wrote his dialogue was almost poetic, and it spilled out of his mouth when he was talking about Django. Who thought he'd mention Django? That was such a cool throwback to the prequels, and then to make the connection that he is also a Mandalorian like his father before him, Django, ending that years long dispute and debate: is Boba Fett, is Django, are they Mandalorians? We have a definitive answer now, according to what we saw in Boba Fett's armor. According to Boba Fett, absolutely they're Mandalorians, and Boba Fett is an honorable guy. Despite being, some people think he's a bad guy, he does not have an allegiance, and he showed his honor here in this episode by saying he will stick with Mando to help track down little baby Grogu. So that was really cool to see, a nice dimension to a character that otherwise only had a couple lines of dialogue in live action. So, man, I couldn't be happier. I don't know if you could tell by my rant at the start of this how excited I was for this, but it was amazing.
Corey, I wanted to mention something that we talked about on a previous podcast. I can't remember if it was last week or the week before, but you mentioned something just now, which is 100% true, and we're seeing more and more of this throughout. They're passively, or even in some cases aggressively, retconning previous Star Wars lore. And you and I have seen online forum discussions where in the past Lucas was explicit that Jango was not a Mandalorian, and therefore neither was Boba.
Yep.
So it's good to see them kind of tweaking things that are required to not only make it fit within the story that we're watching, but also makes more sense in the broader universe to kind of create more congruity. I think it's great. I really am. I'm appreciating the fine tuning that they're doing here.
Yeah, absolutely nailed it, 100%. Something we touched on last episode is we knew that Mando is going to take Baby Yoda here, or I guess, sorry, Grogu here, to Tython and place him atop the Seeing Stone and see if he could reach out to a Jedi. We all predicted that we would see Jedi reaching out to him, whether it was Yoda or whoever. Turns out we don't know who reached out to little Grogu. We have no idea. What are your guys' thoughts on what transpired there and him reaching out in the Force? What do you think went down?
I don't really like to prognosticate too much in this case because I think they've left it wide open to a number of potential points of contact for him. Obviously, we talked about Yoda maybe appearing at some point. I'd still like to see that the most. But at this point, now that we know that he's put this blast out into the universe, it certainly opens up opportunities for maybe a Thrawn appearance, certainly for an Ezra appearance, potentially a Mace appearance. But I still like the idea, Corey, that I think you first mentioned in our last discussion, Yoda. But where we go from here, I don't know. But I'll tell you what, they're definitely setting us up for another awesome finale with the way that this particular episode ended. And I'm sure we'll talk about that momentarily.
Well, let me just jump in here because we saw Baby Yoda do something. Sorry, I'm just keep on calling him Baby Yoda because that's what I do.
Grogu.
We saw Grogu do something in this episode that we really never saw him do before. I mean, we saw him choke Cara Dune when he thought she was hurting Mando, but this time we saw him just hand some stormtroopers their own asses. Do you think that when he sat on that stone that something awoke inside him that connected back to that original training, or do you think he was just pushed to the limit?
Personally, I don't think that anything was triggered by his experience on the rock. I think this ties back to what we've seen with him before, and that is he's sort of a latent force user, and without proper guidance, he's going to naturally, as a child, serve his own preferences, and therefore that's sort of like dark side tendencies. Mm-hmm. Right? He's a kid. He wanted the little ball. He wanted the cookies. I mean, he's acting like I think most kids would act, except he has these supernatural powers. So I don't think it was anything augmented to or triggered by that Force experience. I think he just is in need of training.
Can I have part of this conversation now?
Not at all. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. What was the last question?
The last question was, what did you think of Grogu being out there, and who do you think? Fuck, what was the last question? We have smoke. Basically, the last question was this: when Grogu sat on that stone, do you think that something was awoken in him because we saw him reach out and just completely destroy some stormtroopers, or do you think he was just pushed to the limit and he just had to do what he had to do to survive in that moment?
Okay, I'll get into that, but first, I want to say that I didn't think we'd actually make it to Tython in this episode. I felt like we were going to get some kind of little side story like we usually do before the main thing picks back up. So I was a little bit surprised when we actually got there right at the beginning of the episode. I still think that maybe he connected with most likely Yoda. That's the guy who always shows up. I think it's kind of like what Matty said, is it's kind of that more of a natural defense rather than knowing what he's capable of. I think he was just doing what felt right emotionally, and that's where I'm at with it. I think we need more of Grogu just whooping some ass, and change my mind.
I don't think anyone. I don't think either of us are going to change your mind. That's for damn sure. I know that I've never felt as much hatred for Moff Gideon as I did when he was taunting the little guy at the end of the episode, and he was just left there in those tiny little shackles, which were sad but cute at the same time. I don't know what that says, but it's kind of weird. But yeah.
Those shackles were adorable. I hate to say it, but they were.
Yeah, they're so tiny. We've seen the big ones that almost didn't fit. I guess they didn't fit Chewie, but now they come in all sizes. Get your shackles. Doesn't matter. Man. Somebody else that returned in this episode was Fennec Shand, which I guess there were rumors going out there beforehand. What'd you guys think of how she returned and her little stomach robotics?
I love it. They packed so much stuff into this episode. And by the way, I don't know if no, we didn't mention, but this episode was directed by Robert Rodriguez, which was pretty awesome to find out after the fact because his film work is pretty cool. I felt like it was an acceptable part of the story, and I think this illustrates that when you've got longer story arcs and better character development where you have some understanding of the universe itself and the characters, then even though this seems like, oh wow, she just got her stomach filled with Darth Vader gear, awesome. I mean, I'm buying it because I'm buying everything else that they're presenting because it makes sense in the way they're telling the tale. So I was 100% cool with it.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. We kind of could have speculated that she would have made a return when we had the Boba Fett tease in the first season. She essentially has a life debt to Boba Fett. I'm perfectly fine with it. I like seeing more cybernetics and stuff like that put into characters because it just makes them more unique. Give me more cyborgs, give me more aliens, give me more droids. Just make it unique.
What I like about
and make it fit.
Yeah, make it fit. But what I like about her cybernetic comeback is that if it shows that if they do like a one-off character that catches fire on the internet, like kind of cult following that dies, there is a chance that they could always bring it back. I'm saying don't overuse it, but it shows that, if fans respond to something, there's an option there like, hey, that person was cool, let's try to bring them back real quick. You could always give them the old robotics in the gut trick and they're back from the dead. So that's always a fun option. Speaking of her, custom figures in 1/12 scale of Fennec Shand, I would say if I had to, I've built like half of one before and I didn't feel like finishing it. But when I did it, I used the Inquisitor from Jedi Fallen Order. What's her name? The whatever sister? The
second sister.
Okay, yeah, I used the second sister as a base. I think you could also use Val from Solo would be another good base. And of course, Watto's Scrapyard has a head sculpt of her without her helmet, but hopefully, some other guys come out with the helmet sculpt because she looks really cool with that helmet. I think it makes her look a little bit more unique, and I know a lot more people could paint that versus people who can't paint an actual head. You guys got any ideas for Boba Fett customs?
Oh boy, yeah, I took some pictures of that, and you can use a couple of different things, I think. But just wanted to say one of the cool things about Fennec Shand is you can now make two versions of her. And you could use another figure. I guess you could probably use a Marvel figure. I don't know if there's any bare midriff Black Series figures where you could build in that cybernetic component, which I think would be a fun challenge. It would definitely be a challenge, but that would be cool. But as for Boba, I think that you could definitely use like an old man Obi-Wan base. I feel like for the legs, you could easily keep Obi-Wan, but you could also use something a little bulkier because I try to get a good look at him. So maybe a Maul or a Nihilus for the legs, something along those lines. I feel like in the armored version, I'd want chunkier arms because he was, as Corey likes to call him, a thick boy.
Damn, boy, he's thick!
So maybe some Death Star Trooper or the name changes on the figure, but you guys know which guy I mean. The black dude with the weird helmet.
Yeah.
That we use for pretty much everyone, the Death Star Trooper or Death Star Commander. I feel like you could use his arms, his uppers for Boba. I don't know. What do you guys think? I think there's a bunch of different ways to build them.
Right.
As far as that fair midriff figure you were mentioning, doesn't Padme have one?
Is she? I don't have the figure.
I can't remember.
I don't think she's. I think the SHF version, she's bare midriff. The Black Series version, it's covered. Oh, Leia is bare midriff. Slut. It's not Slut. Slayer. No. What is it? The Slayer. Hot Slayer.
Slave Leia. Yeah, the
Leia,
slut.
that one.
Slut Leia has bare midriff. How dare she?
Slut Leia.
Dude, it's cloudy over here. It got real cloudy real quick.
Oh man, there's also a.
You guys know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, there's a
Leia chick. Bikini Leia, that one. Yeah.
Be a new
All
Hope
right, so
Leia
if
with
you
the
need-
I
buns.
forgot about her.
If you need a bare midriff Black Series figure, we go with Slut Leia,
Yes, sir.
and you can modify that for the cybernetic belly.
A cheaper option
Man.
though would be to grab a Marvel Legends that looks like it's supposed to. It's like painted over a
I
body.
agree.
It might be, yeah. But try to look for a smaller one that the proportions aren't like ungodly, so they don't have the Pixar mom hips going on.
That's going to be like a Nico Minoru. I've used that figure a lot, and then also like the Magic. Like those are the types of figures that are the right scale.
Yep.
Also, there's the idea that you could take the Black Series C-3PO wire midriff.
Oh yeah.
Just build around that. That's a smart idea. That's a real smart idea.
Yeah, great idea, Ryan. You could cut that down and then Dremel out the midriff and just pop it right in there and paint around it. That's pretty cool.
So there's that option that you could modify into Slut Leia. As far as Boba Fett, I think you could take probably a base of a Tusken with their big, thick robe and everything.
Good call.
You could also use them with their random belts and everything, kind of, because he had that ammo belt around his waist.
Yeah, it was a sweet belt too.
That belt was awesome.
But you could take that, and if you know how to dye stuff, you could dye it black.
Talk about like the Tuscan actual soft goods, because that's basically what
Yeah.
he had on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that you're talking about, Ryan, using the Tuscan, if you notice, I can't remember if it was in his Mythos version or when he's actually dressed in the Fett armor, but you can get an image of the sort of belt that he's wearing that wraps around his waist. And I was thinking, if you wanted to emulate that without having to do tons of work, I bet you could go to a place like a Michael's or a Joann's where they sell woven bracelets, like friendship bracelets or something like that. And you could probably pull one of those down and then lay another belt on top of it to sort of enhance that look,
Yeah,
More
because I'm
Mesco
looking
style.
at him now. He's got the woven underbelt, and then he's got that leather ammo belt on top of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you could start with a Tuscan base with the soft goods, and then make some kind of ammo belt. I know tons of figures have different ammo belts. And then you can just add in his armor and make sure he's puffy like a thick boy.
Yeah, there's a really good Marvel Legends ammo belt on a figure recently. I don't remember the name of who it was, but it looked just like the one he had. It was some weird character that I don't even know that had like a skull.
Is
face.
it the one that has like the bullets on it?
Yes!
The bullet-looking one.
I don't know his name though. I have no clue.
I know which one you're talking about because I got that figure and I threw out the damn box and I don't remember the name.
Yeah,
but I know exactly which one you're describing.
He's not Crossbones, but he's got a skull face. And he's got a green jacket on. I have no clue. Even in all the comics I read in my life, I've never seen this character, so I have no idea who he is.
Now I gotta look him up because I know exactly who you're talking about.
But he has a great bullet belt that would work really well for Boba Fett. You just kind of cut off the actual pointed ends of each round.
Yeah,
and that would work perfect. As far as doing Boba Fett in his armor, I think for a base, I wouldn't use Boba Fett himself. Not his torso. I would use Jango Fett because Jango is a little bit stockier than Boba.
Good call.
Yeah, so you kind of get the thick boy Fett, the / Boba Fett going on. Which, might I add, I love that he's older looking and bigger like that. That's awesome. He just looks like a tank.
I agree.
And he was still moving all elegantly and smashing skulls with that gaffy stick. I guess for his, soft goods, it's really easy to do the little parts that are falling off his armor. And for a scarf, I know Outer Rim Traders has a scarf that comes with the Mythos Obi-Wan kit that you could probably work for his scarf in there and then just kind of repaint the armor. And he's not that difficult if you really want to make him. But, as we say every week, Boba Fett is a massive fan favorite. You know for a fact that as soon as his design was done, that they started working on merchandise that would be for Boba Fett. And part of that merchandise is likely a Black Series figure. I would bet 99.9999% chance that this figure is coming in that armor. And hopefully with a removable helmet so we can see that cool scarred face. But, yeah.
I hope they actually make it a build-up pack similar to what they just did with the Din Djarin and Child, where they give you the Mythos version of him, and then you get the armor with the helmet that you can put right on top or remove. I doubt they'll do that. They'll probably try to get 2 separate figures out of it, but boy, wouldn't that be cool.
Yeah,
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, that'd be so cool. I mean, hopefully, I would love to get both versions of them. I don't trust that Hasbro could do the soft goods robe and hood that he had on. I would probably have to be a third-party person to replace that. But I would still love to see their attempt at doing it. Especially if they use that same material that they used for the Tuscans that has a little bit more, I guess, good hang to it. I don't know what the term is there.
I think it would be awesome, too, if they decided to go the 2-figure route for exactly the reason you're saying, or whatever. It would be cool if they gave us 2 heads on the Mythos version, because the one where he's fighting with the gaffy stick and they do those slow shots where you see him like that primal scream, that's full Maori, right? Because I think, isn't the guy from New Zealand?
Oh, yeah, big time.
And if you ever watch like rugby and stuff, I think the All Blacks, is that their team? But they do that chant and that dance thing when they come out onto the field that's like super scary and badass. And he was making a lot of faces that are similar to what they do in their opening. So I think that's like a Maori influence thing there.
Yeah, I mean, that's why part of the reason Lucas cast him is, I remember reading back in the day, is they were looking for, like, he asked what the strongest warriors were in the world, and someone said they were Maori warriors, and boom, he went and tried to find a Maori actor to play them, Django. So that makes perfect sense. It all comes back together.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think Boba's coming. It would be awesome if they made Fennec Shan. I don't think they will. Maybe they will. I wouldn't bet on it, but it'd be really cool. But Boba, 100%, he's coming. Somebody else in this episode, well, not a specific person, but is that Mortar Trooper, I guess? What would you call him? You know, that one, I mean, that's just a repaint that they could easily throw out there. But if you want to make him I'm almost certain he has the exact same markings as the Incinerator Trooper, just yellow in place of red.
Yep.
So maybe a 3D artist will come out with the little mortar part, and you can beat Hasbro to the punch. That would be cool.
I also think that... go ahead, Matt.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Oh, go. Okay, thanks.
Go on,
sorry.
man.
I was just gonna... I was just gonna suggest, because I think we didn't talk about this dude from the episode that he appeared in, but if you guys caught it, in this week's episode, the guy's name is Gapgrin Dozito. That's Scrapjaw. That's the little guy that holds the child with the knife.
Say his name
again. He appeared when they were. His name is Gapgrin Dozito, aka Scrapjaw. And I think Alarim Trader just made a head, right? He's getting ready to prep a head for sale.
Yep, I think there's a head going on. Actually, it might be up for sale right now.
Yeah, so I definitely want to check that out. I feel like that's a really easy build for pretty much any customizer of any skill level, because all you need is a Jawa body and either mod the legs with some epoxy or just swap the legs out for something short that's neutral.
Maz Kanata.
Gapgrin Dozito.
Use those Maz Kanata legs, and you don't have to sculpt the pants. Then you only have to sculpt the little boots. There you go. Use that noggin to avoid that sculpting. My whole life I've been anti-sculpting. I got to find a way around it. So that's why I look at it, unless I absolutely have to.
Yep.
What were you going to say, Ryan, before you were so rudely interrupted?
Jeez. I think we're going to have some 3D designers in the group very quickly make the Dark Trooper, now that we've actually got to see what they look like.
In plain daylight, too.
In broad daylight.
Mm-hmm. Couldn't ask for a better reference right there.
Somebody needs to get on it.
Yeah, I don't know maybe somebody could find a way to work like joints from, that would be difficult, from like L3 or K2SO, but they're so unique that they almost need to be its own design thing for it to actually articulate. So that's going to be a tough one. I don't doubt that someone will do it, but
with those joints, it'll be easier to articulate them, where like a lot of those pit droids and the battle droids.
Very true.
Those are so thin that it's hard to Dremel any kind of joint into it.
Yeah, and that's really the only reason why we don't see a ton of pit droids, is because they have those just tiny, tiny joints that we almost need some sort of rubbery material that doesn't exist, or maybe a flex resin or something that no one's tried. I don't know. I would love pit droids. That's one of my favorite little droids, and I'm glad they're back from the prequels. Like, you see them again. They're just so cool.
Hey guys, I have a question for you. I know you're both into EU lore and stuff. I am as well. But do you guys know that if those Dark Troopers, which version they're based on? They come from that old game. I can't. Is it Dark Empires or Dark Empire or something like that? They come from an old video game, right?
I think.
And are those Dark Troopers? Are they force sensitive?
I don't think they're force sensitive. I think they're made to be able to not be affected by the force.
Ah, okay.
They have some kind of shielding on them, I think.
Got it.
Because I remember even like the Dark Troopers in Force Unleashed.
Yes.
You couldn't use your force powers on them. Now, granted.
Oh, okay.
So they had some type of shielding on them. These ones, they kind of look like a cross between the Phase 1 and Phase 2.
Okay.
The Phase 1 was kind of just a melee combat kind of droid, and it was smaller and had more external hoses. But this one looks like it has bulkier armor, but it's not as big as that giant.
Like the big, almost like power armor Fallout style one.
Yeah. This one's a little bit smaller, but still has the armor plating and not as many hoses, so I think it's more along the lines of a Phase 2.
Matty, that game was Dark Forces. That's what it's come to
Dark
me.
Forces.
Yeah, you were saying Dark Empire.
That's
I was like,
the one.
I know
Thank
that.
you.
I was like, that's
Dark
a comic.
Forces. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I was like, Dark Empire is that awesome series, but what's this game? Because I played the crap out of Dark Forces.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you, man. I knew it was something like that. I just the word was eluding me.
Yeah, and it was. I know we talked about Dark Troopers coming back in canon and then bringing stuff back, but how cool is that? It's not. And it was done not in a fan servicey way. In a way, it made sense too. It's like they needed something that could stand a chance against one of the most badass people in the entire galaxy. So it was really cool the way they were used, and and again, it made sense in the grand scheme of things. So that was awesome.
I was floored when I saw them. Like, you finally get to see them in person, kind of like you see the Krayt Dragon for the first time live action, which was amazing too.
Yeah.
And I think this is one of those rare instances where they're not only putting something in that makes sense in the context of the story that they're telling, but they are giving full-on fan service. I mean, this is like, I think, Corey, you said this in one of our other conversations, but this is really true Star Wars. Like, this is it. Like, this is what we've all been waiting for. I mean, this is absolutely unfolding before our eyes. Just so cool, man. They're just so awesome, everything they're doing. It's so awesome.
Something like when I was, ever since I was 8 years old and I found Star Wars and I was able to get that Powers of the Force Slave One and fly it around by the handle, the back of that handle of that Slave One around my entire house. I used to think that thing was so cool. It was the coolest ship. I still do. But to see it do more than what it did in the saga films was really cool. When it just kind of slipped on screen at first, my jaw dropped and I was like, oh my God, here it comes. And I know they couldn't have picked a better director for this episode either in Robert Rodriguez. I mean, I'm sure they said, hey, Robert, you want to come in and direct the Return of Boba Fett? And he just said, yup. I imagine he just jumped at the chance to do that. Who the hell wouldn't? So, man, we were talking about it before this even aired. We even started recording, not that it aired, that we're running out of ways to say that we love it and all this stuff. And I've said this before too, that we're running out of ways, but man, damn, I don't even know. I don't even know, guys. It keeps getting better. And
I want to make mention of something else that you mentioned before, Corey, which is something that I think a lot of us tend to overlook, and it's the theme music, right? Like the underlying score, the different themes for the different characters. Like, it was so arousing when the Slave One comes across the screen and you hear the Boba theme. You're like, what?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? It was just, wow, just awesome. Or you're even hearing derivatives of some themes as the child is doing things. I mean, just everything about what they're doing is incredible. And I'm not afraid to repeat myself every week, because every week they outclass themselves. I don't know how, but they do.
Matty, you're absolutely right with the music, because one of the things I've loved about this season is how much they take the original Mandalorian theme and modify it each episode.
Yep.
And it just suits every episode in a completely different way because it never sounds the same.
Yep.
Let me pose a question, you guys. So Boba Fett's armor has been around since Jango Fett. Then Boba Fett wore it forever, and then he got swallowed by a Sarlacc. He lost his armor. It goes to Cobb Vanth. Cobb Vanth wears it for a while, and then it gets back to Boba Fett. I don't know if you guys have played like any sports like football or hockey or anything that requires wearing pads, but when you do that sort of thing and you wear those pads for long periods of time, they end up smelling like bantha poodoo.
I smell something.
So my question, you guys, is: do you think that Boba Fett's armor just smells like absolute crap and he just doesn't care? He's just real happy to have it back? Because one of the first things that popped in my mind was, man, that probably smells like shit.
I think maybe you step in the poodoo.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely would stink after all that time for sure. All those galactic jaunts about, but no, I think they probably changed the under piece or the cloth piece because it was really cool in one of the early episodes of first season of Mando when you see him repairing his armor and you see that it's something that sits on that cloth piece that he then like kind of locks in. So I'm suspecting that maybe at some point it was changed, or at least I hope it was, because otherwise, yeah, that shit needs to need some Febreze.
Yeah,
they can call it Fabantha. Trademark.
You know, I've worn plenty types of body armor in my day, and yeah, it tends to start stinking if you have a sweaty day and you're getting through some crazy stuff. But I would hope, now that he has it back, he's gonna at least change the soft goods on it. Like Matty said, it seems to just attach to that cloth piece, kind of like a soft carrier. So maybe that's the Star Wars version of a big old plate carrier. Just swap his plates to a new cloth piece and call it good. Sanitizing wipes for the COVID in his helmet.
Yes.
Never be
too
there
safe.
we go. We'll be good.
Well, now, I mean, we're never probably going to have an episode where we talk this much about Boba Fett, so you're just going to have to humor me for a bit. We know there's rumors of a Boba Fett series, a mini-series coming that's set before Mandalorian, so I guess we're going to figure out what Boba did prior to Mando and how he survived, maybe. Hopefully we get to see him blast out of the pit and how he lost his armor. That'd be awesome. But something that our buddy Jay Haywood brought up to me, he said, oh man, it probably sucks for Daniel Logan, you know, because people who are out there who don't know who that is, he played young Boba and he's gone to all the conventions and been Boba and represented Boba alongside Tamara Morrison, Django, who plays Boba now. So it's almost like Daniel Logan got pushed out of the picture. But the reason I bring this up is, does the return of Boba Fett open up even more stories for Boba Fett in Star Wars canon, whether it's younger Boba or older Boba or Boba in between? Do you think this is just the beginning of this cash cow? Not in a bad way. I'm not saying in a bad way as a cash cow, but they finally sat on this gem forever and now they're unleashing it upon this new canon. What do you guys think, if you had to, per se, you had a crystal ball and you had to predict, what do you think the future is of this character? Not story-wise, but just how you think he will be presented going forward.
Well, cash cow concept aside, I mean, that's pretty much assumed now at this point. I think what they've done here is nothing short of genius, because for the fans who had to suck it up for all those years, you've been vindicated because he's officially a badass, even without his weaponry, and even more so with his weaponry and his armor. I think that Daniel Logan isn't necessarily pushed out of the picture, and I'll tell you why. If we all remember, we see him as a little boy in Phantom Menace, and then we see young teenage-ish kind of Boba going into, maybe his early 20s or something in the Clone Wars series cartoons. Daniel Logan could easily be, if nothing else, used as like the guy under the armor, right? Because he could definitely fill in as the transition now between Tamara Morrison and Boba where he would fall in some of the backstory. And you could even do it in a Din Djarin style where maybe he doesn't take his helmet off that often and we don't have to see him. It's used sparingly. I definitely think they're going to include more of this. They've found a literal goldmine with not only just the Mandalorian series, but being able to leverage, stuff that people have known and loved for a long time. He's not going away anytime soon.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to stop seeing Boba Fett for quite a few years. I would love a Boba Fett show like what's rumored, but
Yep.
I mean, we've had rumors of a Boba Fett show for many years now, so I'm not going to hold my breath on it, but I do think it's a bigger possibility now that obviously everybody's raving about the return of Boba Fett. I do think, like Matty said, that there's still a chance for Daniel Logan, because even if you were to set Boba Fett more towards episode 4, he'd be younger, and we all know that most of the time that you've seen Boba Fett, he had a helmet on, at least in the animation, and obviously the original trilogy, he never took his helmet off. So I think there's a big chance that we may still get Daniel Logan in the suit. We may not see his face and kind of just have the voiceover on him. But yeah, I think there's still a possibility for all of it. I don't think Boba Fett's going anywhere anytime soon.
Can I tell you my fanboy dream? It involves Solo. Solo era Han Solo. So we've got Alden Ehrenreich, and the first time he encounters Boba Fett. I think that is a key moment that Star Wars fans want to see, and definitely flesh out that relationship between Han and Boba, and why they, not competitors, but why they have such a hatred for one another. I'm sure at some point it didn't start off that way. What did Han, and I assume it has to be this way, but what the hell did Han do to piss Boba off for Boba to hate him that much? That's something I'd love to see. And unfortunately, Tamara Morrison is too old to be Boba for that era. So if you want to bring Solo 2, whatever they want to say, make Solo 2 happen or whatever, I just want to see more younger Han. So throw some younger Boba in there and just make my dreams come true. I'm begging you, Lucasfilm. I'm begging you. I'd love to see that. I'm sure.
Hey, Corey.
Yeah.
I think it's plausible what you're dreaming for, because if we could, I thought Solo, we talk about this all the time. I think Solo is easily the most underrated film of the newer films, and it just got trashed because of everything that happened with that one particular movie and the sequels, which I won't name. But Solo is a super fun movie, and the guy who played him did a really great job. So if we can sort of move him into that space as not a filler for Harrison Ford, because no one can replace the master, but
Amen.
I would be cool with Daniel Logan kind of stepping up and trying to fill that gap for Tamara Morrison, and he still can fit he can be that bridge. I think it's plausible. I don't see why they wouldn't look to do something like that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Matty, and I think it's a possibility. There's definitely a chance, because especially over the last year or so, Solo has gained popularity.
Mm-hmm.
It's so fun. It's such a fun movie. It really got shafted when it came out. It really did.
Well, I remember thinking that I never wanted a Han Solo film, and then I saw it, and it was just such a fun movie. It was such a good Star Wars standalone film. I do wish they kept on with the trilogy that they had originally planned on for it.
You guys know me. I'm admittedly a massive Han Solo fanboy. So anything you throw Han at me, I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna gobble it up. So if it's been enough for people to wait and see young Han again, because they've this audience that we've talked about, this cult has built a cult following, and now they appreciate this young Alden Ehrenreich Han Solo. Man, bring it back. And if you want to, if you're afraid that people won't like it, you throw in a little Boba Fett, and guess what? You're going to get everybody on board with that. That's just immediate. And actually, you know what? One more ingredient that needs to be added to that puzzle. We need to see Jabba the Hutt at some point with 2020 or 2021 or modern CGI puppet graphics together. I'm dying to see that fat bastard back in the Star Wars canon. That would be amazing. You throw Boba and Han and Chewie, then man, I think people are just gonna eat that up. Just my 2 cents.
You know what? But you're 100% right. And again, I think it's going to happen because literally every episode that we see, I feel like we're seeing marked improvements in CGI. You're seeing really fine detail and these massive back shots. I mean, I don't know. I think everything that we're talking about here is completely reasonable to assume that should be made or produced at some point.
Especially when you've got guys like Favreau and Filoni, who Ryan, what's the term you've coined for this?
The Favloniverse.
Yes, the Favloniverse. They've been given the keys to the Favloniverse, and basically are being told to, hey, just do it. They, just take the ball and run. So maybe they will be open to more fan suggestions now that they see that some of the more fan servicey things. I'd call them fan service, not in a bad way. Just like, there's fan service in there, but it's not for the sake of fan service is what I'm getting at. So, but they're seeing the response to these things, and how it's like, quote, breaking the internet and trending on Twitter and stuff like that. Maybe they'll finally start listening to the stuff we want to see. People want to be clamoring for that Obi-Wan series forever. And we're gonna get it. We're gonna get it. It's awesome. But I think the response to that, plus Mando, plus Boba's return, I think Rogue One has its cult following, so you're gonna see a good response to Cassian series with K2SO, that whole relationship. I mean, yes. I just think that Lucasfilm has all us hardcore Star Wars fans by the short and curlies. And they know it. And you know what? I'm cool with it. If that's what it takes, I'm cool with it. It's awesome. I always say right now, it's the golden age to be a Star Wars fan. And people say, no, that was the original trilogy. Well, no, it wasn't, because there's more Star Wars media to consume now than ever in the history of mankind. And whether you like it or not, you find something you like, you stick to that. You find something you don't like, you move on from that. So you don't have to be a whiner. You don't have to be a complainer. Just find what you like, celebrate that, and love Star Wars for what it is. That's my positive message for today. How about that?
Put away the clown shoes, people. Put away the clown shoes.
Yes. No Jar Jar Binks clown shoes. We don't welcome those here.
You guys are making it hard for me to be able to find memes for this.
Well,
I have some for you.
Oh, good. Gotta get those clown shoes.
Yeah, I know exactly the one that's going to appear, and I want it to appear right now. Make that happen, Ryan. Right then. I need clown shoes. All right. All right, this show is going off the rails. Let's close things up. Before we go, you guys have any other parting words you wish to impart on our listeners?
Thanks for being here, everyone. Hope you're having as much fun as we are.
Leave a like and subscribe to the channel.
Ooh, professional sounding. Look at that.
Now we're a thing.
Well, yeah,
First time we've said that.
Oh, I don't want to be one of those guys. Like and subscribe. But I guess, you know what? Yeah, like and subscribe. You want to hear more?
The only way you're going to get more.
Yeah, please like and subscribe. That'd be awesome. On behalf of everybody at Star Wars, a Custom 112 Galaxy Facebook group, we have spoken. May the Force be with you always.